I invested $30,000 in 12 days to manage the launch of one of my clients. And in this video, I want to share with you 10 lessons that you can take away in case you have to manage a similar launch or if you are simply curious. So sit back, and especially if you like topics such as marketing, advertising, media buying, and online business, subscribe to the channel because it's really simple and instant for you, but for me it's extremely important. The first tip that I took away from these $30,000 invested, moreover, I'll show you a screenshot here to prove its authenticity, okay? The first tip I took home is that without a roadmap, you will really hurt yourself. Now, when we deal with a launch, but we could also say more generally, when we deal with a significant budget, so imagine $30,000 in 12 days. There were days when we spent even $4,000, more than $4,000, so there were really days when we pushed hard for this launch. It is essential to know where we want to go, who we are dealing with, who our competitors are, what our target is, what resources we have available, and how we can optimize our strategies to achieve success. In reality, we will need these styles for every single type of advertising campaign that we plan to undertake. We won't have to wait until we find ourselves in a situation where we have a lot of budget to manage. I train the media buyers who work with me, and the media buyers I train to always think in terms of a roadmap. Do you need to know where you're leaving from? What are the objectives? What resources do you have available? Both economics, so the budget that is maybe made available by yourself because maybe it's your project, or by a client you follow. Those that are the resources precisely, also technical, so maybe the funnels, the videos, the creatives, etc., etc. And it is also essential to know, to have a picture of who our competitors are, to know who we will actually be fighting out there. It is essential to have this sort of roadmap, and I can make a parallel, indeed I would say a very simple but at the same time equally effective metaphor. That is, if you were to take a trip, it is important to know where you are going, with whom you are going, how much budget you need, how long it will take you to get there, if you need a certain type of suitcase, if you will travel by car, by train, etc., etc. That's it. Our marketing strategy, our advertising strategy must start from these pieces, and when you are dealing with large budgets, I have managed and still manage much larger budgets, but here we are talking about this launch of 30K in 12 days. Well, it is essential, that is, you can't just start without having a clear awareness of this roadmap, otherwise you risk really hurting yourself a lot. Tip number 2, actually we can utilize this even when we have a lower budget, but also when we have a budget like this, especially if we have even higher ones, be prepared to be structured. That is, let me explain better. If you have to manage $30,000 in 12 days, you can't just open the computer, start a campaign, and maybe do it in a hurry or do it carelessly. Being structured on multiple levels, having multiple copies, multiple creatives, multiple ad accounts, maybe more domains, etc. is important. It is extremely crucial. Once we have taken a photograph of the roadmap in point 1, well, in point 2 to structure and organize everything that is related to advertising platforms, and not just that, but also all the tools in our toolbox, everything we will need to prepare the infrastructure and commence our campaigns. Tip number 3. When I think about strategy, I often like to compare it to a battle. Actually, when we start our advertising campaigns and therefore also start our marketing strategy with all the resources involved, we actually go to fight against someone. Why? Because maybe we have competitors, maybe our client has competitors, and we have to make sure that that client, that prospect, that potential client chooses our project rather than that of our competitors. So when I think of a strategy, I literally think of a sort of battle, considering everything that needs to be considered. Here, the third piece is this. I know my roadmap, I know what I'll need because I've structured myself. At this moment, I have to think about my moves. Exactly as if you were playing Battleship or a game of chess. You need to know what your strategy is, what moves you will make, when you will push the budget more, when you will slow down, if you will slow down, the type of campaigns you will launch. It is essential to try to prepare as much as possible. Obviously, small spoiler, there will be moments when there will be unexpected events, or maybe your client will be happy with the results you are producing in terms of lead generation, because this launch, in which we invested 30K in 12 days, is related to lead generation for an info product. Maybe your client was so happy because he wanted to test the quality and realized that the quality of the leads is very good. He says, you know what, Ale, put another 10K and now you have to manage 40K instead of 12. So it is essential to know what your moves will be, and here too, the more you play preventively, the better. Fourth piece is this, and practically in reality also this is a piece that is in any fundamental advertising campaign. You have to become your customer. But when you have to deal with so much advertising budget, you have to try to empathize in the smallest details in what is your potential customer. Once when I was in high school, my philosophy teacher told me if you really want to understand philosophy, you have to try to relive the life of the philosopher who gave birth to a certain reflection and a certain thought. Why? Why is it even easier if we want to understand the lifestyle, maybe understand the interests, as well as understand what they are absolutely not interested in at the moment we identify ourselves? This is because when dealing with budgets of 30K and above, as I was telling you, I manage and we manage with my team even larger budgets than 30K, you will find yourself in situations where you have to change the messages a lot, you have to vary what you say, vary creatives a lot, know potential customer, immerse yourself in their shoes, know how to create something that actually interests them, not something that ends up boring them. It's fundamental because you always consider it, as I've said many times within this channel, renew invitation to subscribe if you like these videos well. The user is more awake after the pandemic. The user knows what to watch, knows how to search online, knows how to form his own thought even more. And it is important therefore to try to be his very first choice as much as possible, because the peak of attention is increasingly lower very few seconds. And in those very few seconds, your potential customer or your client's potential customer, apart from the play on words, therefore the prospect of your client decides whether to discard you or be interested in what you do. So it has become really crucial to study and identify with what is your prospect or your potential customer. We have reached the middle, so if you like these videos, I recommend you hit the like button, subscribe, share this video as much as possible. Really, for you, an operation of very few seconds. For me, it is fundamental, so thank you. Arrived at the fifth point, what I can tell you is that this lead generation was mainly carried out on Meta's Business Manager. It is a lead generation that has moved on Facebook and Instagram, and therefore fundamental in this specific case. But actually, even if I had used Google rather than TikTok, keeping clean, what is the advertising system, the platform, so in this case the Business Manager. What does keeping clean mean? Well, try to limit the reports. Try to keep the nomenclature of the advertising campaigns very simple so that it is intuitive. Keep them clean from any annoying restrictions. Try to have more accounts, etc., etc., etc. So it is important to try to speed up the processes, especially because if there are days when you push hard with the budget, believe me and trust my experience, you cannot afford to lose precious seconds or minutes to understand maybe what is the latest campaign you launched, the last modification you made. So even how you call your advertising campaigns, your ad groups, and your ads in this situation becomes extremely, extremely crucial. Tip number 6, I really have a lot of pleasure in sharing this with you. No one tells you, but it is fundamental when you have a nice budget on the table to start slowly. We need, let's say, the patience to produce results. This doesn't mean you have to underestimate the goal we set in point 1. So in the roadmap, on the contrary, we should do everything possible and impossible to achieve it without any doubt. However, at the beginning, you start slowly because if you press the accelerator extremely hard, you could have very high advertising costs for fake, in the sense that advertising costs may increase a lot, and it is due to the fact that you have put a lot of budget. You may not have an objective view, but more biased. If you have new advertising accounts, it is important to warm them up. It is also important to start slowly to limit any reports, any bans. This step is crucial, so do not underestimate it. Number 7, as feedback, as lessons that we can take home from a regeneration of this kind, is giving limits is fundamental. You can't think of going out there, and especially in the scaling phase and when I would like to scale, because maybe you will find yourself doing it. On the contrary, with 30K in 12 days, I should necessarily do it. It is essential to set limits, benchmarks. How much can I pay for CPL without losing quality? How much can I pay for this cost for the ID, the cost for the contact without losing quality? And what is the maximum I can give myself? What is my benchmark? If I have followed other launches in the past, maybe even with lower budgets but in the same niche, what is the average cost per lead? What can I expect? And when is that breaking point where it is no longer worth it because the quality does not excel, but only the cost for the result excels? And above all, in that moment when you realize that the path you are taking is that, set limits for yourself. Cease. Do not be fearful. Deactivate that campaign. Affirmative, a marksman from this vantage point. I have witnessed numerous occasions when sentiments become a factor. We cannot afford to reason with emotions, but we must be skilled, and I know that this is also the result of experience, but right here on the channel you can find many videos that can help you in this regard. It is essential to be able to look at things from above and say, no, this CPL is costing me a lot, but I am not making any profit, just like this CPL is extremely low, cool, but the quality is highly poor. So it is important when certain situations occur to say, okay, stop everyone, it's not good, or stop everyone, fantastic, let's scale. But do it objectively, leaving emotions out the door. Tip number 8, scale and continue testing. It is crucial when you understand, as previously mentioned, that you possess the winning cards in your hand to prioritize what is capable of being scaled, and most importantly, to persistently work on new tests in order to position yourself to uncover other campaigns, other groups of ads that are equally valid and that, once scaled, enable you to achieve even more compelling outcomes. Here also, I frequently observe numerous individuals who exclusively climb in one manner, so genuinely 99.9% of individuals simply climb by increasing the budget, but that is not the sole way to climb. On the contrary, there are truly countless many. And that is why in my agency, but also in my training courses, I share them all, and we also utilize the most up-to-date strategies possible, because there are truly so many ways to climb. And on the other hand, I observe many media buyers, many advertisers or aspiring ones who test the creativity, perfect, this one goes, this one doesn't go, good done, no, it doesn't work like that. We have to continue to give input to the creativity algorithm options also, because we return to the speech of our famous user nowadays. The user gets bored immediately, and if he has already seen you and in his mind for any reason that he considers valid, you are not interesting. And it is something we have to make peace with, because it means that we haven't captured him. He will ignore you. Ignoring means losing a click, losing a potential prospect that could have occurred on the page, for example, and leaving the data to increase rate while also taking another lead. Therefore, it is crucial to be in a state of continuously inserting fresh opportunities, conducting tests, and more tests. Scaling doesn't just mean increasing the budget, and above all, it doesn't mean stopping there. You always have to have new cards, new arrows in your quiver. And here I also connect to point 9, which I have already partially anticipated, and this point is to continue testing at any time within the days you have available. In my situation, this leader generation lasted for 12 days. You may have more or less time, as well as a different budget depending on your circumstances. Here's one thing I do. I consistently keep testing continuously at any time of my leader generation process. We have reached the last very important fundamental, and for the last time, if you like these videos, let me know, even with a comment. I am absolutely pleased. I also like to share what I do, what we do at the agency, as well as what I do here on the channel, and I would like to bring you other case studies, maybe more practical ones, by entering the Business Manager. But to do that, I necessarily need to know that you like these videos. Here is the last tip. The last lesson that we take home is purely of character, of mindset. Now, the mindset is a term that is commonly used by everyone, but I believe that its true value is not yet fully recognized. As I was saying before, and I'll spend one more minute on it, emotions play a very negative role here. You have to imagine that when you go to manage a lead generation of a certain type, or in a broader sense, when you go to manage very important budgets, as I was telling you, I have also managed even heavier budgets on a daily basis. It is essential to leave emotions at the door, and above all, try as much as possible to be objective, because when you scale up, the budgets run heavily. If you let yourself be carried away by emotions, you could, for example, turn off advertising campaigns when they shouldn't be turned off. And maybe then, for attribution, you could discover that those advertising campaigns were damn performing, or maybe you could delay the launch of some campaigns, or maybe you are not objective in evaluating the performance, or in preparing new tests, or in understanding the target. It is essential to be a sniper when we have a lot of budget and we have launches to do. Obviously, as I told you before, it is something that also develops with experience. I am extremely aware of this, and that's why I invite you here on the channel, because there are really a lot of videos and many others will come out, but it is equally important to start doing it right away. Even if today you are managing a campaign of 10 euros a day, which obviously compared to such a launch may seem very simple to do, but it is all related to the level we are at here. Even if you are managing a campaign with 10 euros per day, become accustomed to approaching that campaign with an objective mindset. Detach yourself, look at things from above, look at things objectively, make an effort to do so, At first, it won't be absolutely easy. It's part of the game, but make an effort to do it, because the sooner you take this habit, the sooner you will take this confidence, the sooner you will be able to manage advertising campaigns in a much, much, much more objective way. These were 12 tips, 12 lessons that I had great pleasure in sharing with you and that were born from this launch. We are managing others. I am very happy with what we are doing, and as I mentioned earlier, I would love to share all this with you here on the channel. So please let me know if you would like to see more videos like this. And that's all from Le Lorenzi. Hello, and thank you for your support.